I would like to welcome all of you to the International Coffee Hour program for this semester. For those of you who don't know me, my name is David Rasea. I'm the coordinator of this event. And there's Lucian Nana, who's at the front. He's the assistant coordinator of this event. And we have a host of volunteers. And we hope to throw all of you a very good ICH program this semester. Right, so the brochures, as you guys would have noticed, are not on the table. That's because they're not ready yet. We hope to have them ready by next week. But just telling you a little bit about the program, in celebration of Black History Month, which is February, we're going to have a special series on Africa called Focus on Africa. For those of you who remember last spring, we had something called Voices of Africa. Students from Africa came and presented about their countries, very general aspects about dance and culture and stuff like that. This semester, with Focus on Africa, we intend to go a bit deeper, touch some issues, celebrate some people, and stuff like that. That's what we aim to do. So the first 5 presentations will be on Africa. We are going to start out with this presentation right here, Lessons and Reflections on the Legacy of Nelson Mandela and Martin Luther King in the 21st Century. And the next week it will be Senegal, a country of contrast, and Nigeria, and Cameroon, and Zambia, and so on and so forth. So we got an interesting program lined up. The brochures will be out hopefully by next week, and more information is there. For those of you who can't wait, you guys can log on to Facebook and search for International Coffee Hour CSUF, and all the information is there. And for those of you on Twitter, you can start following us on Twitter. Okay. And with regards to sign-in sheet, as usual, it will be passed around at 2:20. So please do sign in your name and your country. If you've been coming here for years, or you've been coming here from last semester onwards, and you've been writing your email, and you've been receiving my emails, there's no need for you to write your emails down. Just writing your name and your country, and that's enough. I'm going to invite Lucian to say a few words about the Focus on Africa series. Okay, Lucian.
Okay. I hope you guys are happy to be here today.
Yeah.
Sure? This side is quiet. Oh, good. Well, I guess I'm African. I want me to talk about Africa. Well, our Focus on Africa series, when I was growing up, one of the things I learned in high school is the smartest students are not just those who make A's in class, but those who make the best of the things around them. So our coffee here, we're trying to move forward. We're trying to make, take opportunities of the events, the current events happening around us, and move forward. That's why we're trying to focus on Africa. It coincides with the Black History Month here in America. So we'll begin, by starting, Dali to begin by giving the legacy of Africa, and I'm sorry, some contemporary African leaders and some of the, diaspora Africans who didn't have the opportunity to live there, but they came here and some of their legacies. We move on to Nigeria. We might hear about Nigeria is our economic giant, and we hear some of the things there. We're going to go up to Cameroon. We'll talk also about the Senegal. We'll see someone's experience and how they view Senegal, some of the things they can compare with them. Then we go to my home country, Cameroon, where we can compare some of the differences of the lifestyle and the economy and how things have been changing over time. So after that, we still have a bunch of good presentations lined up. You guys should come. If you like this presentation, I'm sure you're going to like it. Bring your friend next week and pass the word on to the people you meet, the people you work with all the time. So we're not going to waste so much time. David is going to come back and continue.
All right, thank you, Lucian. All right, so I'm going to introduce the presenter and give it over to him. Everyone know this person? Yeah? All right, Daliso Ruwe, ICH alumnus. He's already presented twice. The first time was like 5 years ago. Is that correct, Daliso? It's so long that even he doesn't remember what he presented. He also presented last spring. He actually took part in the Voices in Africa series. He did a general presentation on Zambia. Today he's going to do a very different presentation, much deeper, not surface level. A little bit about Daliso. He's entrepreneurship and anthropology senior. Very, very, very popular person on campus. He's like the role model for international students. We all aspire to be like him. He's also in the, okay, I hope I'm not embarrassing you. He takes part in a lot of activities. He's also part of the USU Leadership Council. Alright, so that's a little bit of Daliso. I'm going to give it over to him.
one of my favorite figures is Malcolm X, deeply controversial. But Malcolm X was really was a humanitarian at his core. I think one of the things I learned while reading his stuff and work was really this guy who was brilliant but deeply scarred with the society that he lived in. So that for the next 12 years after in prison, and he spent 12 years in prison, but the 7 years that he was in prison, he spent time reading. The man was a voracious reader. Every time he was in his cell, he was reading. They'll have the lights turned on when this guy was reading. He lost his eyesight in prison because he was always reading. And he was always preoccupied again with that question that says, who am I in light of my history? But more importantly, what will I leave to the generation after me? He's a very interesting figure, deeply philosophical. He came to the U.S. to study philosophy, theology. He was a deep lover of Plato. And I think Plato would be happy to know that his idea of a philosopher king came to fruition in Kwame Nkrumah. And what is interesting about Kwame Nkrumah, he sort of talks about this in his autobiography, in his readings. He sort of talks about the fact that with Africa, that in the 13th century, right, he sort of realized that philosophers, and Vico was an Italian humanistic philosopher who was trying to chronicle the civilization of living in this world, right? So Vico in his book sort of says that, civilization is that with Africa. And this is the 13th century, right? And it sort of says Africans were pagans, right? They didn't create anything substantial in this world. But it's a little contradictory because he was really talking about Egypt at that time, right? He sort of said Egypt can't be the creative civilization, right? They have no religion. And for him specifically, because he was a Christian, right? So he said Jesus never went there, so we can't say that was a creative civilization. That's totally, irrational to say that, right? But there's something deep about that because when we look at Egypt, right, it's sort of thought of the most primitive civilization, right? But one of the most perplexing things about Egypt is how did they build those pyramids, right? And there's sort of a deep thing about that, right? How do people in a desert create pyramids, right? With no bulldozers, with nothing mathematical, but how do they find the courage to build something that's momentous? Nelson Mandela was groomed to be an advisor to the chief. He grew up in this advisor to the chiefs. And in prison, he sort of relates this interesting story that when he was moving about, his wife and everybody had sent him back sort of letters and everything else. And so prisoners would come to his cell every time, and they'll sort of ask him to send them pictures back to them. So they need something to comfort them. And one of the prisoners comes up to him and says, I'd love for you to send me a picture. It would be awesome if you send just one picture. He said, all right, I will send you a picture. So the guy comes back and says, well, okay, tell you what, don't send me a picture of your wife. Send me a picture of one of your daughters. And he sort of laughs. Like, wow. He laughs because the guy asked him to send him a picture of his daughter. Right? He thought that was interesting because, this is prison. People don't always see people. This is Robben Island and enslaved. And so he was laughing at that. He thought it was funny. I thought it was funny. You have no think it's funny. That's okay. But again, right, he was sort of preoccupied with this thing, and he relates one moment that sort of woke him up. That when he was getting initiated after the ceremony of being circumcised and being known as an African man, he had this interesting experience with sort of what in Africa we call the Sangomo, like the chief or like the prophet. Right? And so he's talking to him and tells him that, he says, I want to die because if I die, I want to go back to heaven and tell God that the children of Africa have died. Wow. At a young age, right, he is a prophet telling you that. I want to die because I want to go back to heaven and tell God that the children of Africa have died. Again, to sort of maybe tie this whole presentation together, right, from Dr. King, what type of sense of love do we have for people in this world? We know that, yes, we all aspire to have a spouse. That's awesome. And we all aspire to have friends. And we all aspire to have wisdom, right? But that sort of love that says, how do we love people irrespective of their histories? When we meet them as strangers in this world, turn them into neighbors. Right? So that's sort of like personal love. That love that says, how do we turn these strangers into our neighbors? That we have to live with them for better or worse. That hate is easy. But can we love people in their concrete forms, right? In all their fallibilities? Can we be with them? Right? Democracy that says, how do we allow for everybody to have a voice? And again, we have to grapple with our history because we know that our history hasn't always allowed, whether it was men or women, at some point to have a voice. that mean to have justice? But more importantly, right, what will this generation do with this history? A lot of bright students in here, some are sleeping. It's cold. What will you do with your life in history, right? What history will you leave for the next generation? We stand at a very pivotal point, right? We have all this information, YouTube and everything else in the world. But what will people remember you when you die and leave? Right? How will you have grappled with your history? And some of the history is traumatic. Some of it does make you think twice about why you exist. I'm not saying commit suicide, but I'm saying deep, deep issues, right? What type of education will you have that will shift you from the superficial things about life and force you to grapple with humanity? Because for better or worse, right, we all have to leave a legacy somehow in this world.
When you're visiting your grandparents, when you're out and about, nobody knows who you are, and everybody just assumes you're any old American. What's the setting that, not that's the most interesting, not that's the most challenging, what's the most comfortable?
I was relating that sentiment to a friend just yesterday who asked me almost a similar question, because I was telling her, part again of sort of grappling with my history and who I am is a sense of alienation, right? Because again, I've spent 10 years in this country, but I don't almost entirely fit in because of the African background. But also if I was to go back home, I wouldn't entirely fit in because again, I've been shaped deeply by the Western culture, right? So at least for me, I'm most comfortable when I can be just around people, because again, I've sort of learned that I have to figure out how to live around strangers. Even home, right? People are strangers. I mean, yes, I was born into the family, but everybody else is growing. My little sister is sprouting into a deep intellectual, like she's growing up to be somebody else. And so I think I feel safe around people when I can sort of, Dr. West, I met him one time, and he sort of said something to me that I'll never forget. He said, wherever you go in life, you always need to live a little heaven around you. You have to be this person who creates sort of a safety net around you, that when you leave, people can feel happy and joyous and be more away from the stress of the world. So I think for me, I sort of have that preoccupation, always create that little safe haven around me, that irrespective of the people I meet, right, that everybody I meet them in sort of our brotherhood and sisterhood, and sort of try to live a little heaven around me. So in that sense, I try to be as comfortable as everywhere as I go, even in my bed sleeping.
So you've got your little pod around you, wherever
Yes.
you are.
Yes, I'm always in my mind. I think a lot of my
That's
friends would tell you that I'm always stuck somewhere.
Portable package.
I think I would like to say something to you. It takes a lot to be here, and especially to cover the material that you covered. And personally, hands down, I'm into this stuff as well, because I'm from minority in my country and I've seen a lot in my life. I really like the fact that you were emotional about certain things. It really, the nail on the coffin. Hands down, that was the best presentation I see. Right, so thank you so much.